So instead, you're putting yourself into the scene of a hospital or a crime scene or World War III, whatever it may be. And now the casting director is being assaulted by all these visuals that don't need to be there, that shouldn't be there because it has become a distraction. In the same way, the background of your headshots should not be a distraction.